Welcome back to the fifth installment of Cart to e-comm, and here is the result of our review API we'll be working with this time. As you can see, you're able to leave reviews, and we'll go ahead and get this going by updating our database. And so within the items table, I'm actually going to have some review information, not all of it, but the things you want to show up on the shop page. So every time somebody submits something, ultimately they're going to fill in the comments on one table we're about to create, their review table, but they will also be posting a little bit of information here on the items table to help out some of the other modules with their content. So now we're going to build a reviews table, and we're just going to start off with an email of who left the review, and give that string an according number of characters, however many you think is going to be. The item ID, so let me think here. Yeah, item name. That's going to be more convenient for us because everything else is called item name. And we do have a limit here of 122 characters, so then let's remember that some of those item names are pretty long, and we'll see if they work. Our rating is a 1 through 5 rating, and we only have 5 stars going, so we're going to do a little bit of rounding, but it's still nonetheless a rating system, and we can get more specific. I can actually maybe in the end show a little bit of how to make a half star or something like that with CSS. But we're also going to need a user timestamp, so we're going to have like who bought this and then when. I'm sorry, who made the comment and when. And then of course our comments. Now our comments, I went ahead and said I've been encoding those in URI components so that we can skip out on all the nasty characters and whatnot. Let's go on to get the Node.js written. This is a basic CRUD system. And we're going to go ahead and do a lot of copying and pasting some of the same functions because they're really always the same and when you're just doing a CRUD system. Let's bring in Express, and let's tell Express about our router here. All right. I'm going to do our validation for our JSON web token. And we'll do this basically an export, your standard export from Node. And I also want to do this on the server.js. I want to let it know that we'd like it to route some stuff over in a certain direction if the path shows up one way. And so let's go ahead and get started with an adding of a review. It's a post. Obviously, we want to have the add-review as the path. Check token is very normal. A rec and response. So that's supposed to be an RES. You can see that it's kind of darked out. I'll come back and fix that. Now we're going to build out the package of JSON that we're going to be sending to SQL. And we're going to call it review just to save a little space and make it nice and neat. But we'll send this out there with the query. And so here we go. Let's do a little SQL into the reviews table, a standard set. All right, and here we go. We're passing the review package with the SQL string and looking for an error or a result. Now, error first. If we run across this, let us know what happened. And else, let's go ahead and send whatever the result is back to whoever asked, whoever posted. Okay. Now, I also need to bring in my database up here, and let it know how I can configure. So just a couple more things I just forgot to write. And let's do a little notes. So I know that sometimes I come in here and I'll start writing and realize, I'm writing something on the client side. It needs to be on the server side. And so let's just make it very clear for myself. Now, so delete, I'm writing in currently, and we will not get to the, do we? No, we don't get to the front end part of the delete just yet. Not that I can recall. I wrote it yesterday, so I'm pretty sure. But it's super easy. And we'll make a little fave icon trash can or something if this is your comment and you'd like to get rid of it. But yeah, I didn't write that yesterday, so we'll probably swing in, and I've got a couple ideas on how to refine some of the reviews to make it a bit more specific. So like I said, I might make a half star as well, so all depending on how far I want to take the reviews. So now, as you can see, I've done similar to our post in this delete. The path and then the user timestamp is going to identify which comment we're talking about. We're going to say delete from the reviews table where the user timestamp, which is a unique thing, only equals with this. And so in which case, if there's an error, we need to know about it. And just like the other one, we need to send some kind of result if there was no error. So like I said, these CRUD systems, the create, read, update, and delete, these setups are routine. Now, this is your standard Git. And we're going to be basing it on an item name. So when someone gets to the product details page, we'll gather up all the information about this, the reviews. Now, luckily, that page is going to already have a little bit of information, like how many items of this have been sold. Or, I'm sorry, how many reviews have been done, and then how what the overall rating is. So a little bit of information. The comments will be on the reviews table. But we'll go ahead here in a second and we'll swing in and do the client side of our reviews module after we finish off our standard Git. So I'm going to write a little bit of notes here just to let everybody know. Coincidentally, my last project, I did this differently, so I'm ultimately writing this out a little bit more to where I think it's less processing power needed to basically, once someone submits a review, that updates the items table right then and there. And it does all the math. And that way, when we get to a shop page, every item that shows up doesn't have to do that math on the fly. So, review button. I'm only going to let people send a review if they actually bought this thing. So, as you can see here, I'm digging through my old project and kind of revising like what I wrote and what I need to kind of do this time. I can't say that I'm going to be doing everything I did on my last project. Coincidentally, it was in MongoDB, so definitely not doing everything. But enough to where I can bring in a lot of the UI. I mean, frankly, I just don't like typing, like looking over to the left, typing on the right, and it's painful. So if I've got somewhere where I can kind of cannibalize an old project and bring in the functionality, I'm probably more or less going to do that and then walk anyone through it here on these videos. And there'll be a lot less human error if I do this. Okay, Lee Review is our new module. And so I'm going to start bringing in some items that are necessary. We're going to need a form, and we're going to need some functions. Just like we had the server side, we're going to need these the client side as well. We're going to also have this thing living in the shop details module. So that means that anything the shop details
has is going to be passed down. Anything that's necessary will be passed down, and it will also have to do a few other things from the app will have to be passed through as well. So I'm kind of gauging where I need to place my review. And initially I put it above this, it's kind of a select menu, and I end up moving it. But this is kind of my process of where should this land on the My Product Details page. And lo and behold, I move it later, but this is also me grabbing things that I'm going to need that need to be passed down to make this module work. So I'm gathering up things like config because it's going to be using Axios. And I'm bringing in user email that need to be passed down. So if it makes sure it's from app to the product details to the leave review.js. Like, there's also going to be a grab items function that will be brought in that way as well. Okay, so show a review button is basically if someone has made the purchase, they can add the review. Otherwise, it's a flag that will say that they didn't make the purchase and they cannot make a review. They just won't see the button. Now I'm going to do some adding and pasting of a new bit of stuff. We're going to put in something called star and set star, which is basically where we can officially say whether a person set the rating, and here's the ratings they map through with 1 through 5. And we're also going to be pasting in a few more things, like we have show alert, we've got config and user email. Those all need to be brought into this as well. So those are going to be really important. Let's also bring in some functions here from our send review. Now, send review functions, I'm just going to paste in along with the comment form, and then we're just going to take a look at it. So send review, as you can see, it's an API call post that sends email item ID, which will be switched to item name. It also has comment, and it also has the user timestamp. Now, as you can see here, I've pasted in some JavaScript and HTML from a project that we're about to cannibalize. So let's just go ahead and tear this apart. This is basically just going to be the form. I don't need any of this other stuff. So this review toggle panel, that's gone. It's gone. We don't need it. And this here's returning the maps. That's great. We're going to cut that out. We just need this text box. We just need this button because that's just the form of the HTML. And we'll make it nice and tidy here in a UL and line item as setup. And so basically, I'm just instead of typing it all up, I've just pasted it in an unordered list with a line item of when within the line item you got a text area and you have a button and you have the send review click. These are all the things that when I paste it in, it says we need. So basically, I'm going to take this HTML and it's getting close, but I need to go ahead and let it know that I need to work on it. So in the process of me working on it, let's go ahead and add in Axios because we are using it for our post. And we're going to need a global timestamp function. So this is something I kind of have running somewhere else. And with my submit cart, it just basically does the time set in a quick manner that will give me the format I need. And so I'm going to make a function out of it. So since I use it here on this cart, and I also want to use it on my leave a review, then let's just make it one time. So it's a timestamp function, and when return, it returns the timestamp string. And so let's do an export default timestamp, and then I can utilize it on the cart, just like I already was. I just got to import it. And then it'll be fine. Just clear that all out because now it's represented in just a function here, and the actual function lives somewhere else now. So let's just swing on with that. And it's going to be timestamp equals, so I'll have to come back through. Yeah. Timestamp equals. There we go. And everything is off to the way it wants to be here. It looks like. Yeah, everything's matching in camel case here. So let's go ahead and move on. And as you can see here, I need to say false right now so I can actually see what I'm doing, considering they haven't bought anything yet. All right, so now I can see it. This is temporarily, so I work on it. And see the line item, I can do class, and it would be list unstyled. And this is the bootstrap significant, and rows 3 will make my text area smaller. Unlisted means there's no bullets for my line items. And leave confirmed purchase review is just the label we're going to have for our form. And we've got a little bit of padding and margins we're going to fix to just line this up. I don't think we even need the line items, so I'm just taking those out and making them divs now. So as you can see, as the process continues, I clean this thing up. I want it lined up is the problem, and it's not right now. You see that padding? I need to fix that. And so I will. It's already living within a column, so if I did another column, that brings the padding. So let's just take out the column. Now we wrote true so that I won't see it. And let's go back to the function we pasted in here called send review. Comment starts out as default. If the comment actually exists in the comment field, now the comment will be renamed. Now, if the stars are null, we're not going to post anything because he didn't type anything. And if the comment is default, then we know he didn't type anything, so we just won't send anything. That's our validation. So as you can see, here's the package I'm going to be sending. It's got an email, item name, rating, user timestamp, and the comment. It says it's called timestamp currently, so we'll see. Anyway, so if it's successful, I'm going to actually send a new function to update the items table with a little bit of details. How many reviews were done and what's the rating. So all that computing is going to be done here so that the server side will have it ready when we go to the shop page, and it won't have to do a bunch of that on the fly. Here we go. And this is what I'm just talking about. So as I submit these things, I am going to, obviously you can see the post, and then if it's successful, I'm going to go back and hit send review average function. And within this send review average function, I'm going to write a little note here. It said we will build the average from all the reviews here in the browser, then send the results to the, and it's going to be items table. Yeah, so as you can see, when we go to our shop page, like however many items we want all throw up at the same time. And that would mean if we didn't do this, that would mean that they would all have to find out their rating on the fly every time the shop page opened. And we'd have to do however many items were on that shop page, we'd have to do this function that many times. So it's ridiculous. So here we go. And when you make a new submission for review, it does it on the fly. How many reviews are there? What's the overall rating? Send that information to the tables item so we can share it. And we don't have to keep coming back here until we actually get to the product details page. Now we're going to do some useEffect for the comment module. That way we know a little bit, we need to run and get some details when we start. So my classic is I want to make sure it's loaded. So set loaded, and we do our useEffect. And then we say, hey, is this loaded? And if it's false, then we run this one time. And then within the running of the if statement, we change it to set loaded to true, so that we know that this will not happen again, will not come through this if statement anymore. Now prop selected is going to be used. So selected item is something that we're going to be passing around. We need to know that we have the item name before we can do this loading. Now this thing can run many times over. It will not run this if statement again because of what I've written inside of it. So if the useEffect gets run through a couple times by React, that'll be fine. During this one time that does run, I'm going to go ask for the reviews for this item. As you can see, prop selected item name. And then on the other side, I'm asking, hey, did you get that item name on the server side? So coincidentally, the answer here is going to be needed to be filled in so that we can do our, once we load, we want to get all the ratings and all the comments basically kind of thrown in here. And then we'll need to set them into something up there, an object, so we can run it throughout the module. So I'm going to run through and get what we need out of our return when we ask for the reviews from the API. And I'm going to start off with saying I need a temp rating list so that we can get these all separated out. And as you go through, let's push them into temp rating list. So all the selected product or selected item ratings will all go into the rating list. And it's going to be a number. So we'll be able to add those up later on, and we'll set it. So we'll have a list of all the ratings once we get them for this item on this page. And we're also going to let it know that, hey, we're loading here, so you don't need to take this too far. So the new rating on if new rating equals loading, then we don't need to do this. We're going to make a temporary list, and if it doesn't equal loading, meaning we're looking to not only do the rating but add a rating as well. So the send average review will ultimately be the same thing we do when someone clicks on and submits a rating. So it runs twice, once when it's loading and once when somebody clicks and wants you to do the average. And so here we will have the length, whether it was a new person or not. It won't matter now. And so let's go ahead and get the ratings total, what they all add up to. And then we'll just keep adding through the iterations of our for loop. And then we're going to get the average. Once we get that added up, and then we divide it by how many people are in the, how many people left comments, then we'll have that average. And so then I can not only have all the ratings, and I can also have the average posted up on the top so that we can share it throughout the file. Yeah, so I'm just going to do the divide straight here. No big deal. Now the star rating component is going to be a for loop, and it basically is simple. It's easier than it looks. So first off, so that we can kind of understand how these are being built without getting too complicated, I'm going to write out the stars visually to explain to you like what I'm going to be doing. And remember, this is just similar to something that any e-commerce platform will give you. You have a rating system. You click on the star, and at that point, that will become kind of a button to tell you what the star you clicked is. Yeah, so I'm going to basically, let's take a look, and I'll show you what 5 stars looks like all lined up. Now, these are dead. They're just static. So I have a class that's called pointer that makes them kind of look like they're a button. It just says when you hover over it, we want the cursor to turn into a pointer. Now, yellow is something as a class I'm going to create. Yellow star means it's filled up. I'm going to go over to the apps.css, and I'll just make something called yellow star. And in the background, actually the color is going to be yellow, so I'll come back here and fix it in a second. Yeah, so now the background that's not correct. We want the color to be yellow. Here you are. So it's static right now. We have an A star. It doesn't do anything. It's just HTML. Let's go ahead and turn this into an interactive rating system. And I'll put a little label in here, and then I'm going to add a function. So on click, we're going to do a set star or set rating. Yeah, set star. And we're going to pass basically the number over so it knows what the rating is. In the first case, it'd be 1 or 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And we have an array of this stuff, so let's just map through the array and we'll just be a lot easier. So stars, if you know what stars are, we're going to do, it's going to be stars.map here in a second. I got to change that. But as you can see, it maps through all the stars and returns this one HTML tag that has the fa-star class in it from Font Awesome. And we say, hey, look, you can either do the regular star or you can do the yellow star. And the only way we'll know which one to do is based on what the star rating is. And we know what the number here in I in the iteration is, and I'm sorry, and the star is, and the star rating is, because we've based it on that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 map. So we're comparing it basically from this array called stars. And that's it. So we've mapped through stars. Each star gets a value from that array. And then when you click it, that star's value gets passed on, and we can set exactly what we want based on our loop here. So yes, it's really simple. And I've got it backwards currently, but nothing that my operator can't fix. And update items. These are all kind of a put, because we want to go ahead and update what the average is once we've got this information. So as you can see here, update review, I'm going to put in our new data, and it's got the configuration. We've got a res, which will basically tell us what was affected. If it's 0, that means it didn't work. And else, I'm going to clear out all this stuff that says under else, and we'll put what we need in there. So let's go for having a temp average, and we'll just do the function math there, and we'll just pass it through. That's really no problem here. So we're going to pass what the average is and what the rating length is. And currently this is an array, as you can see. I'm going to kind of fool around with this. What we want to do is send the database an object. And I'm going to clear this stuff out, like I said. So we have our Axios put. We've got our path up there. And right now we've got an array that's been stringified. Then we config, and then we look to see if it worked or not. If it was there but it didn't find what we needed, it comes back with 0. So it's like that didn't change anything, so that did not work. And then the else is if something did work. And as you can see, obviously the error is beneath it. So let's just build it up for what happens if we succeed, now that we've had all these things if it didn't succeed. Okay, so if the res data affected rows does not equal 0, and then it means that something worked, something got changed. And so not only we're going to tell them that something changed, let's go ahead and do a test run. So I'm going to make it so we can see the actual form. So let's make that true so I can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to move this down below. If you didn't see that, I'm basically just moving my component down underneath the form. The review is now underneath the form. No big deal. I just copy pasted. Okay, so we're going to need to have the HTML kind of cleaned up here, and bear with me while I kind of look at this. All right, so the review is working. Let's see if I can send anything. Pending. Okay, so that's what we're sending. As you can see, our package. And add review is our path. But as you can see, it's not working. The problem is that these aren't named correctly. I want to say the user timestamp. There's no capital in the timestamp. So on the server side, it's expecting user timestamp with a capital S, and that's incorrect. And bear with me while I prepare to fix this. And some of the other things, selected item is supposed to be instead of selected product or whatever. Okay, so as you can see here on the post add review, the user timestamp has a capital S, and so let me squeeze through here and make sure that that's not the case, so it will match up with the database and the client side. And from there, obviously, that'll be a fix. So let's change the default expression to null for review data on the items table as well. And let's go and write the client side for the update rating info on the items table. So update review is what we're going to use, and this is the post. Actually here, this is going to be a put. So we're just going to basically use a put, and we'll use update review as the path. And we're going to have the review data updated. So update items table. So update items, and we'll just clear all this stuff out except for what we need. So review data where item name equals. So we'll pass that item name and the review data. Basically, we're going to have to pass a little bit of information so we know what to update. So let's just send a review real quick. So my review is working. My update review, nothing worked. It says success 0. So none of that's really working. What happens is I kind of go through what I'm sending them, and I kind of reaffirm that it is going to be an object, but I need to kind of set it to an object that I'd like. Just passing it this way, like an array, is not correct. So bear with me as I kind of wander through and check what I need to send over. So getting the average together, making sure that I'm looping through everything to get the right information. And with my put, or with my post, I'm going to encode it and make sure that the comments doesn't have any illegal characters by encoding it in a URI component. So let's try this again. And just clear out all my reviews so we can start fresh. So these are okay. I'll hit a send. So I affected one row, but then my update didn't work. So the review got sent, but it didn't update in the main table. So the second half of my update did not work. So we're going to need to pass the item name. That's what the problem is within the update review object. And we'll make it an object with an iteration within the brackets. So just have one iteration though. So yeah, it's not sending them yet. And just clean up a little bit of stuff. And what I'm going to need to do is make an object. So these are going to be, it's basically going to be keys and values. So make this into an object. 1 second. I'll make this pretty, and I want to make it so where it's readable. So I'm going to do a little bit of spacing. So review data is basically an object, and the item name, which is going to just be the item name sent on its own. So we will save the review data. It'll be turned into a string once it gets to the database, but it will be an object for the client side. And I'm just kind of rearranging a few things. I'll put it back here in a second. There we go. So what I want to do is I don't want to send this thing if the thing is simply loading. Remember, this function gets fired off a couple times. Once when it's loading and once when somebody's doing a review. We don't want to send this update, if they're just loading. So that's basically what I'm saying. If it's new rating does not equal loading, let's go ahead and send this off. And what we're sending off is review data and item name. Review data is an object that will be saved, and then we will bring it out when we need to call the items table. And as you can see, there it is. That's kind of what we're looking for here. And here I'm determining if I have any product review data. And if I do, I would like to see how many reviews I have and what that rating is. Now the shop is also now going to have stars as well, since it's going to show the ratings. So it doesn't really know what the stars are unless we bring that little array in here, just like we have on leave review. And here we're going to bring in that stars map. So it does the same function basically as it did on the other page. It's literally the same thing. So we find out what the rating is, and then we map through and we determine which star to show based on the number of ratings it received. And we won't need the click because this is just a showing of, there you go. They're all, unfortunately, they all have the perfect review right now, so that's not correct, but we're getting there. And let's go ahead and clear out our data. And so we can, set it up properly. Let's set it all to the default of no, except for the one we already have. And that'll help us kind of get started in the right position here. So I'm going to do a React fragment because we have a couple of components here, and they will not let us have them independent. They have to be wrapped in something. And so basically what I'm going to do is find out if they have a review. And if it has a review, then I'm going to show the stars. If it doesn't have a review, then I'm just going to say no reviews. And just bear with me while I kind of figure out where I want to place everything. And obviously we've got some spacing issues as well. So little adjustments here and there. We're showing 90 characters for the details and 75 for the item name. So let's remember that. It's going to have to change that so we can have a little more space. And we're also going to determine what we're dealing with here. If thus far our product review is still a string, that's not really going to help us here in this JSX. So we're going to need to make sure that it gets parsed back into an object so we can read it. So that's a fairly basic thing. Once we bring it in and then we start mapping, it's like, hey, we're going to use these ratings. Is it still a string that we had it saved like in the database? And it's like, if it is, then we need to change it back to an object. So we'll do a JSON parse to the product.review data to make sure that it goes back into an object so we can display it. There. So the ratings are showing up now. And if they don't have anything, it's not showing up anything. So as you can see, that's there's one more thing I just need to fix up and clean. And now let's just kind of go back and see what we're doing. I just forgot to reset that one to a default value. So let's bring down the amount of text we have up there to 25 for that we have some space for our title. Some of these titles are so long. I wouldn't recommend doing that because I'm going to cut it down to 25 characters so we have some space for the review in the shop page. And so let's go through and see where we stand now. So as you can see, the rating and the user timestamp, these are all working out correctly. And we need to make sure that we're looping through the actual data that we received, as opposed to the res. That will bring in much more stuff. And what we're going to find out is if this individual has actually bought this item. So the user timestamp, you see how it has like the names of the individual, the email of the individual who bought it. So that's how we're going to determine verified purchase. So as we go through all of the user's purchases that they've ever had, if we go through this item, all the purchases that's ever done, anybody who ever bought this item, we're going to go ahead and go through and we're going to find out if this person's email is listed. And that will tell us if they ever bought anything. Excuse me, not if they ever bought anything, if they reviewed anything. That would be funny. Now, we're going through to see if they've ever reviewed it. And so we go through all the names of all the things that reviews and go through the selected names, and then we find them. And then we will show that review. We're also going to show the comments here. There we go. So once we've gathered all the reviews, so basically let me back up. When you get to the leave review component, it goes and gets all the reviews, and that's all we're doing is going through all the reviews, and then we're going to show them. And we're going to show them underneath the submit review option. Now, granted, that submit review option might not be visible if this individual did not make a purchase. But either way, the comments and the reviews will be below. I'm also going to have it to where if the individual is using this actually did leave a review, their review will show up in the comment section, and we're going to hide the button so they can't write another review. They can only write one. So what we're going to do is we want to tell everybody what the person said. We want to tell everybody, when they said it, and then, obviously we'll put in our rating for them as well. And this is just something that iterates through all the comments. And I'm going to leave it at the bottom of underneath the submit cart or the submit review, because I don't know how long it's going to be. That's why I don't want to have it above anything, because if it's really long, it'll really make our forms in the wrong spot. So this will be at the bottom. Also, we will set the rating when we come in here. As you can see, we don't have the rating stars yet. Things are starting to show up, and we can see that the percentage sign is being used a lot, so that means it's being the URI component. We're going to need to decode that so that it's read, so somebody can read it. And so then we're going to set all these things once it's loaded. And just a little bit of HTML, kind of seeing what looks nice. And here I'm going to put the same kind of functions that we use for the stars everywhere else. And I'll put it down here, and I'll use the average in the place of star. There we go. Now we'll still need the URI components for those comments need to be cleared up. But we also want to make it a label that says these are our confirmed purchases, because the only person who can leave a review is somebody who actually bought it. Otherwise, they would never even see the form. And then I'm going to give this thing an overall rating and use the average that we brought in from the items table. So overall rating, looks like it's broken right now. Let's switch that to an H3 instead of a label. And we need a little padding on the top. But we really only want to show that if there are any reviews, so let's also make the ternary operator here. And we'll use the same review data information that we saw a minute ago on the product details page. That's going to be the same thing we can use here. So I just copy and paste it into and let's just clear everything out. Okay, so we have the total amount of reviews, which is 4. Looks like it's a little bit off, but it is starting to show up. And let's clear these out and figure out why it's doing this. Let's start this at null, and we'll start fresh. And let's see where our issues are. I'm going to make a purchase. So we'll go to that area. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing my buttons and the ability to leave a comment, so I need to change that. So on our leave review, what I want to do is go through the user's item purchases. And then if this item shows up, then we'll know that he made a confirmed purchase, he or she. And from there, we can determine whether they're allowed to even leave a review. So I'm going to go through the purchase logs. And as you can see here, I wish I have something similar. It's a get. But here I'm going to go, instead of time frame, I'm looking for the user. Yeah, their email. And I'm being very specific about those colons, because you could ultimately, without those colons there, someone could kind of screw with you and use your email, and then we don't want that to happen. So the colons are really important to determine that is the end of the email, because we're doing a like. So I'm going to ask from the client side now, on the review, I'm going to do a get. I'm going to ask for what we just wrote on the server side, which is all the purchases from this user. And I'm going to need to, instead of temp time, I'm going to be handing over the email address to get this. And when we clear out, I need to know what we got. And we'll build this out accordingly. We need to use props because we're importing it. And as you can see, that is what the item looks like. It has the item's name, price, so on and so forth. So that's not necessarily what we're doing here. All right, so within useEffect, there's 2 gets. One get is going to get the reviews, and once that's successful, the next get is to go get this individual's purchases, and we'll run through and do some comparisons. So we know that the individual has bought the item now, because it's showing up here. And one of my flags is off, but we want to make sure that we can see if they've made that purchase. We want to make sure that we can see where it exists. So let's get this Axios get up above. And these are all the purchases right here. And now, so it's working. I got all my purchases. Now we want to go through all the purchases once they've come down for this individual, and we're going to say, hey, the item that we're on from this product details page, is this item, does it exist here? Initially, I do a little bit of trying to see if it would work over here, where I can determine if the user's email and the item name exists, which would probably be more efficient if I was better at SQL. And chances are I might come back and actually do this, because then I don't have to do a for loop. But if I do it on the front end, I don't have to do the for loop is only done in the browser as opposed to the back end. So either way, you have to do a for loop, because it's going to have to go through and compare on the server if this email and this item name exist. So you're taxing either the server or you're taxing the individual's browser to go through all of the purchases from this individual. Personally, actually, this would, in the browser would be less work, because it's only going through that individual's purchases. On the server, it would be going through all of the purchases to see who has this individual's name affiliated with it and then the title. So it would be doing a lot more work. And here, so I guess, now correct me if I'm wrong. However, if you're having the individual's browser do a lot of the filtering for you, and the filtering of it going through is small, or you tell me what you think. You think that I'm doing this faster on the client side, just going through the individual's purchases, or is it faster on the server side to go through all the purchases ever to find out if there's a match with this individual and this name? And I personally went the other way. I went to let's find out just this individual's purchases. And so as you can see here, I'm refining it down to my search to see if we have a match. There we go. So let's make this look really pretty. I'm going to make a new user so I can add other things under other people. So since this is a new user, he hasn't made any purchases yet. So let's go ahead and now we can confirm whether this thing's working or not. Okay, so the purchases are good. Best gloves ever. Let's see the reviews. Let's go back to see if it actually showed up. I'm just looking for my gloves. Handiwork gloves, okay. And there's best gloves ever. So my review is there. So let's put some spacing here. I need some padding on the bottom, 5 rem. As you can see now, it's a little more space. And let's put a little padding on the bottom of my reviews as well, so that you can see it. It was covered up by the footer. Now I'm going to do the grab item functions. So once the reviewer has made a review, then I want everything to kind of like reassemble. So I'm going to call the grab all items from, it lives in App.js. I need to pass that down to my product's detail page and then onto my lead review module. So that once this thing is successful and I have sent the review, then it's going to go ahead and grab all that information and update it right then and there. And by using the grab details page, we'll grab it all down again, and we'll be set with the new information. Now I wrote local storage in here, and that's incorrect. The token is in session storage, so it's going to break initially until I go back and fix that. And I also want to make it so where if they only have one review, let's just have it say review. And if they have more than one, I'll just write review. Or reviews, plural. So it just looks more professional. These ternary operators make it really easy to do that. And same thing with switching up classes. The ternary operator really is helpful, switching out classes. And I'm also going to say if you don't have any reviews, I want to convey that as well. But I need to move it into the correct spot. It should be one level lower. There we go. So if on the product page, if we have no reviews, it'll just say no reviews. And I also want to have something where if the individual types a comment, then their comment is represented in the comment field, and it'll say like, hey, this is the comment you left, and it'll show them. So you'll see that all come together right here. Yeah, so I'm going to auto-populate those fields. If I find out this individual left a rating, I'm going to go ahead and set them up with a reminder of what they wrote. With the comment value equaling whatever their comment was. And we'll also set the star rating that they had set before. Yeah, so the problem is here, like right now, he's able to leave multiple. And let's verify that we don't want local storage. It's all token is in session storage. So just rewrite that. Okay, let's restart. Yeah, so see how it leaves two of them? That's not good. I mean, coincidentally, if they just kept leaving reviews, it would just do an average of all their reviews. So it doesn't really matter if they leave multiple reviews. It's just kind of annoying for the seller, and it's kind of misleading. So the submit review button is just going to be something I'm going to take out. Here you can determine, like, oh, here are all our purchase logs are still working that we did. I don't know, I wrote that about a year ago, maybe two. And I also want to make sure that all the illegal characters, when I send out an item name, I don't really want those characters that are illegal to be represented because they've been messing up my they mess up my database. So I don't want anybody putting in characters that aren't identifiable with my database. It really messes things up. Here I'm going to say If this individual has been left a rating already, I'm going to hide the button, review button. Now, I'm also the last part here. See how let's go to one. See, it says, this says what he wrote, what I wrote. But I can't submit another one now that the button's gone. I'm just going to clear out some of these reviews. We'll start fresh. So I'll just make one review. And we'll see what happens. And clear out my data. Let's buy something. And we'll come back in and take a look at these glasses that I bought. See, now that I've bought them, I can make a review. I'll submit my review. All right. And there we are. And you see now I can't leave another review. There's no button. But the review I did leave is there. All right, let's do a little cleanup. I'm also going to say, hey, this is your comment with a little colon so that they know what's going on and they know what they left. There we go. A little more intuitive. And then here's our purchases from the two individuals. And now here, like I said, I need to make sure the database is protected. So this regex is going to clear out any characters I don't want in the database. So let's say I'm going to send a comment or something like that. I don't want these characters in there or apostrophes either. It's going to mess with it. And I'm going back to the CMS where we have these titled names. Some of these names of some of these products had legal characters in them, and it would really mess things up. So I'm going to stop that. Now, the titles cannot have illegal characters. As you can see, I am fixing that right now with this regex replace.
I had an afterthought, which is I'm going to move the user purchase request to the parent App.js, meaning that once the user logs in, we're going to get all of their purchases. That way we only have to ask one time. And when they get to any of the products, we can run through that data that we've already requested and find out if they've actually bought this item. And then that being the case, they would be able to leave a review. This is better than every time I go to a product page, I go ask and get all of their purchases again and again and again. No reason to do that. Now, coincidentally, if they order something or if they want to leave a review at that point and it sends off, it will request to get the refreshed new version of all the stuff that they've actually purchased. So what I'm going to have to do here is user purchases is going to be something that now that state is going to live in App.js, and I'm going to pass it down to the product details, and from the product details I pass to leave review module. As you can see, I'm bringing in props.userPurchases so that I can do that, and now we're going to be moving the API call to App.js. Now, I'm going to hunt around a little bit to find out the best place to put it. Now, validate user is obviously a great place to put a couple of things. We've already got grab all items. However, let's think about this. If I go to grab all items, which is going to be something we're going to call, I could ultimately run this API call at the end of grab items, and that'll be fine. We'll just do one success upon success. And so here I am putting the state of user purchases here in App.js. And let's find a nice spot to write this function so that we can call it. And coincidentally, I think above grab all items is just fine. So obtain user purchases. This is my new function. And I'm going to call it or I'm going to fill that state once you've got successful response. Here we go. So here's where we just go and say, what we want to do. I'm just kind of watching myself as I walk through here. Okay, now grab all items, obtain purchases. We're not going to need, I'm just going to basically look at all these functions and all these states I'm bringing into my product details. And then I'm also going to be passing those on to the leave review. So let's take a close look at what I'm leaving here. So yeah, I won't need the obtain user purchases because it's being called within grab all items, and you'll see me delete it here in a second. Once I realize that, oh hey, if you're bringing in grab all items, then you don't need to have that other function because it lives within grab all items. That's what I'm trying to get at. So let's just get this all squared away with the config needs to be set. And as you can see, I'm going to take out that function from the product details and lead review because we don't need them since it lives within grab all items. And let's give it a shot. There we go. And here we can leave a review to see if it's still working. Remember how many API calls we're doing now. I mean, when you leave a review, you're doing all sorts of stuff. You're grabbing all items, and then it goes around and gets all your purchases again. So there's going to be a bunch of API calls. So you added a review, update review, all items are called, and then we're finding out what the purchases are. That's 4 API calls. Here's the result of our response when we ask for all the reviews. So let's swing in there, and it's working. We are good. So more efficient. Leave the call to find out. Here's one that I haven't purchased, so we do not have the option to leave a review. Okay. That is the end of this lesson. Thanks.